of you/us are putting the work in now to make Seder, whether you're hosting or just planning on going, magical, which is one of our goals today, is just to like put the work in now so that we're not showing up in the moment like unprepared and caught off guard. Because I think this holiday is like the quintessential Jewish holiday in so many different ways. And it's really exciting to be able to go into a holiday feeling like, you know, you didn't just like walk into the test without having studied. Which, you know, I did that a lot. I don't know about you. Sometimes you can wing it and be fine, but it usually feels better when you've actually like done some of the homework. And in this case, it's like spiritual homework, which, you know, who doesn't love doing that and who generally has time to do that? So anyway, that's what we've sort of set aside this time for right now. And there are two questions up here. One is, what is a question that you're coming with today? The answer may be, I don't know, I haven't thought about this for a year. Or like, I don't know, I haven't thought about this for 30 years, or ever. I don't know what my questions are. What are my questions supposed to be? That's totally fine. Take this opportunity now to think of like, what are you curious about? So much of Passover, as we're gonna get into, is about curiosity. It's about asking questions, like sort of calling up within ourselves that muscle that so many of us are taught to like not flex as children. Like, stop asking, there's not a good answer for that. I don't know, the answer is because. This is just the way things are. You know, this is the way the world works. This is, you know. And it squelches that instinct, which is like maybe the most holy instinct that human beings have, and the most liberating instinct that human beings have, which is, but how could things be different? Like, why is this night different from all other nights? Et cetera, et cetera. Those questions aren't rhetorical. They're like actually coming from a place of curiosity. The next question is, if you've been to a Seder or hosted Seder before, like what's something either that's really worked, that you've seen done, that you're like, ooh, I want to figure out how to like emulate that, or something that really bombed, that you're like, wow, how do I avoid seeing or doing that at my Seder this year? But, you know, just sort of stories of Seders past. And if you don't have any, that's okay. Okay? And let's go. Nobody, before we, let me tell you what's going to happen in the next almost 2 hours now. We've been here a few minutes. We're going to spend 15 or 20 minutes kind of zooming way out. Before we zoom in on the Seder, which the rabbis of the Mishnah and Talmud kind of designed to be almost a dramatic dinner theater experience, to create a certain kind of feeling, atmosphere, thought process, context for conversation. Like that's what the Seder is designed to be. But like that comes in a bigger sort of, I don't know, religious, spiritual, ideological statement about like, what is the nature of like this human existence that we are in, and how can we make it better? And how could Passover be a tool to try to actually elevate human experience, not just for us, but for maybe all people? What does that look like? How do we do that idiosyncratically as these weird little Jewish people that we are? Or that we are hosting at our tables. I know a ton of people who are not Jewish who host Seders. Maybe it's because that, you know, people think that that's like the last thing Jesus did before he was crucified, or maybe it's because they think like, ooh, dinner theater. Like, what a cool way to have an existential conversation about the nature of freedom and free will, and you know, like how it is that we become more free people in the world. Huh, interesting. Like, you know, also wine. Great. You know? But I think for the most part, like this Seder ritual is a very idiosyncratic Jewish thing that we do, a sort of gift that we've given to the world. That for many people is like a real highlight of the Jewish calendar, and for other people is this like heart palpitations, like, oh God, oh God, oh God. You know, either because I'm hosting 35 people, or because like I have to go to this Seder that's like mind-numbingly boring, or because I have to see these people I don't like, or because I don't like matzah, or you know, like any number of reasons why it could be challenging, but also hopefully we're going to be able to like really thoughtfully create experiences, or be part of experiences, contribute to experiences that help help us move just like a little further along this like path of liberation, which is kind of what this holiday is about fundamentally. But I want to like do a little bit of the reading that gives the rabbis context about like what is this holiday. So what I handed out to you, and I think everybody should have. No. I handed enough to whoever I handed them to. Now share with your partner. So everybody should have one in front of you. Does everybody? Looks like a sheet of paper. A Seder they'll be talking about, or a Seder they'll be talking through, which is a good thing in this case. So I want to orient you to what's on the page, because in a moment you're going to turn back to your Chavruta, to your person who you've been like learning about, and you're going to learn some Jewish text. This first text, by the way, let me say, if either of you like knows and wants to read a little bit in Hebrew, feel free. The top one includes the Hebrew, the bottom I couldn't find right away. But so this top text is from the Mishnah. It's like the earliest book of Jewish law. There's the Torah, but the Torah is not really a book of Jewish law. Kind of is, but it's also like a book of everything else. It's kind of like a nice starting place, but it's been iterated on a number of times. Christians would tell you the New Testament is an iteration on the Torah. We would say the Mishnah is our iteration on the Torah, sort of the first time. And then there's a Talmud, and then there's all this other stuff. So there's a little bit of Mishnah here. And this describes, well, you'll read it. It's basically, it's people talking about what's supposed to happen at a Seder. This is like situated in pages and pages and pages and pages of who pours the wine and how do they pour the wine, and do you do the wine before the sun goes down or after the sun goes down, and how many pieces of matzah, and it's pages and pages of the minutia of how you set the table and what's on the table, and what you eat during the week and who says what. This is like a paragraph. Okay. And so the question at the bottom of this, once you read it, you should read it out loud. You can either pass it around and have each person in your group read a paragraph, or have one person just read it out loud. And the question at the bottom of that is just like, what does the Mishnah teach is actually important at Seder? Is actually important, okay? And so the second text below, probably written-ish 1,000 years later, somewhere between 600 and 1,000 years later by Maimonides. And he has some different, also this is situated in pages and pages and chapters of how to do Seder, but he has this very specific set of instructions about, I think, what the experiential goal is of the night. What's supposed to happen to you? What kind of a train of thought are you supposed to be on? So the question at the end of reading that is, what's the experiential goal? Passover. So I think the way that we're going to encounter this most personally is if you turn back to the person that you've been learning with. Okay, other aha moments or questions that this raised for you?
We were struck by how explicitly child-centric it is. Like, you kind of know that, but like to see it stated in black and white like that was
What do you think that's about?
And the child shall lead them, I don't know.
I think similarly, like, just if there are children around, I've been at Seder with a lot of kids, they're the first to notice things are different. Like, they're the first to see all of it, speak to all the things that are different or weird or interesting before adults. And so even if kids are present, awesome, you won't have to try that hard. And if not, like, then how do we be that or something?
Yeah, like the point is not to be so attached to some way of doing things that you can't imagine that things could be different. Because the whole point is asking, what's different? What's different? Like looking around and being like, why would you do that? Tell me about it. And then you answer with a story. What were you going to say, Ellen?
That's okay.
Okay. Yeah, go, please.
This kind of speaks more to the first question, but hearing you say, this is my aha moment for me, the idea of being able to imagine the difference, and suddenly it occurred to me that if you're enslaved and you've so internalized it, that you might not even be able to imagine that something could be different.
And then like maybe that's like the definition of slavery, right? You can think of physical slavery, but you can also think of emotional, whatever it is, like addiction, being in a relationship you can't imagine getting out of, right? And then just start going down the list of things that like, oh, is that a form of slavery? Because I can't imagine things being different.
Right.
And once you sort of open that,
Once you make a change, it's like, whoa.
oh, yeah. Great. I used to go to a Seder in Los Angeles where I think started around whatever time whatever time the night began officially. So let's say it was like 7:30 or 8. And we weren't eating dinner until 1:30 in the morning. And the reason why was because the Seder hosts took very seriously the idea that like we need to be asking questions. And so anytime somebody had a question, first of all, you were like rewarded with applause if you asked a question about, about what was going on, or about something else, but it had to be like a genuine question. It couldn't just be, the first few were always interesting, and by like 11 p.m. we were like, no, stop asking questions, just stop, let us eat. But it was really interesting because it did sort of force everybody into child's mindset. Nobody sat there with their hands folded, sort of like waiting to be told what to do next. We understood what to do next was chiming in and asking things. Which, like, I don't know, for those of you who are going to Seders, not hosting Seders, that may not be the MO of the Seder leader. So you sort of have to figure out, like, negotiating a little bit, what's the environment in which you're sitting, is this welcome? However, like, you should know, this is sort of how it's supposed to feel. We did a thing here a couple weeks ago with bar mitzvah kids and families. And so like by age, 11, 12, these kids are already sort of in the a little bit shy, a little bit, nervous about asking things, don't want to be outed as not knowing. And one of the families, didn't get a babysitter for their 5-year-old. And so there was also a 5-year-old in the room. And this kid, like anytime there was a question, he put his hand in the air first, and anytime there was a silence, he would say, but why do we do that? Why do we do that? And, there was this part of me as an adult that was like, okay, like enough already, And it's that instinct that, I think we overcorrect for. And so part of this, this whole thing that Rambam was saying about move the tables, put funny things on the table so that you will ask, and not just kids, but, so that everyone will sort of like scratch their heads like we should all the time in the world, and ask, why is it this way? And could it be different? Okay, with that, we could, oh my gosh, there's so much more to talk about here, but here's what we're gonna do next. You're gonna walk into our office here, which we've transformed into a banquet hall, a dramatic theater banquet hall. Underneath the plates, you will see one of these. And we're just gonna kind of like go through. There's a page 1 here that's gonna like take us through kind of what the plan is for the table. And that's what we'll do first, and then we'll just turn you loose. So that is what's coming.